This is attorney Brian Pendergraft with the Pendergraft firm, and the question that I'm answering today is, do I need an LLC for each investment property? And this question was actually asked by someone in a real estate investing group right here on Facebook, and she gave me permission to make a video on it, so now I'm making it. If you have any questions that you would like to see answered by an actual real estate and landlord-tenant attorney, feel free to let me know in the questions. And I thought that this was a good question to answer because there seems to be a golden rule floating around that you need a separate LLC for each investment property. And while it's a good idea, I think if you understand the principles behind the idea, you'll be able to make better decisions when it comes to how your own business is organized. That said, this is legal information. This is not legal advice. So for legal advice, you can consult with an attorney that is licensed to practice law in your jurisdiction. So first, let's discuss why it is a good idea to have your properties in different LLCs. Well, in order to answer that question, we need to know how limited liability companies work. An LLC is a legal fiction that separates you from an entity that you control. It's actually the closest thing to magic that I can think of in the real world. Because if I harm someone, it's only fair that a person is able to come after me and the things that I own. But an LLC allows me to say, hey, I didn't harm that person. My business that I control harmed that person. Therefore, you cannot come after me personally. You can only go after the LLC and what my LLC owns. So it's essentially a sleight of hand that allows you to shift responsibility and accountability from, aka liability, is why they call limited liability companies, from you over to a fall guy. And that fall guy is your LLC. And when your fall guy gets sued, the only thing that can be recovered is what the fall guy owns. Now, barring if they're able to, well, the exception would be if they're able to, let's say, pierce the corporate veil and then get beyond the LLC and get to you personally. But that's very hard to do. Now back on subject. So, now this brings us back to why it's conventional wisdom to have a separate LLC for each investment property. Because when the fall guy falls, the most he can do is lose one property. On the other hand, if you have 100 properties in one LLC and your fall guy has to take a fall for you, then it's possible that all 100 properties can be used to satisfy the judgment against you. So that's why using one LLC for multiple properties is a lot riskier than one separate property per LLC. So now that we understand, I guess how LLCs work, I actually think there is a better rule than the golden rule of one property per LLC. Because one property per LLC fails to take into account the value of the property. For example, you can have a property that's worth $1,500 and another property that is worth $1.5 million. You may feel comfortable with multiple $1,500 properties in one LLC. On the other hand, you may want your $1.5 mil property in one LLC, separate from everything else. In fact, the cost to maintain individual LLCs for a bunch of $2,000 properties may not make financial sense depending on your jurisdiction. So my rule, which I will now call the Pendergraft rule, is to understand your own risk tolerance by determining how much cash you're willing to lose per fall guy. Maybe I'll call this the fall guy rule. For example, you may determine that you're willing to risk up to $60K per LLC. So that one LLC can hold two $30K properties, or it can hold three $20K properties, or one $60K property. Ultimately, you have to determine what you feel most comfortable with, and there really is no wrong answer. It depends on your own risk tolerance. So you may feel comfortable with the golden rule of one property per LLC. And if you reside in a jurisdiction with very low annual LLC maintenance and upkeep fees, then it's a very attractive option. If I could form LLCs for $50, I'd have millions of them. On the other hand, if you're in a jurisdiction where you have to pay $800 annually per LLC, I will have a lot less LLCs. I definitely won't have millions of them. Ultimately, you have to decide what makes you the most comfortable based on your own risk. That could be the golden rule of one LLC per property, or it could be the Pendergraft rule, which I'll now call the Fall Guy rule. And you can place properties in an LLC based on a dollar amount of what you're willing to lose. Or maybe you like to live dangerously and you don't want any LLCs at all. You can do that too. And that's it. That's pretty much all that I have to say about this question. And if you have any questions that you would like featured in my Ask a Real Estate Attorney series, feel free to let me know in the comments. If it's a good question, I might shoot a video on it. Alrighty, take care.